everyone, and welcome back to Scientifically Speaking. Today, I have a guest. She is absolutely the bomb.com. We interviewed for grad school together, and I met her. Well, I met you in the building in our previous institution. And then I also found out that we both made it to interviews for one particular school, and that's where I got to spend more time with you. Today, my guest is Miranda Torres. She is a neuroscience PhD candidate at Northwestern University, working in a spinal cord injury research to improve functional recovery. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. It's a good morning, honestly. It's beautiful outside. Yeah. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
I am doing well. The first thing I noticed was when we got on this call, you're in a lab and it is like 9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a lab.
You're telling me that you get to the lab at 8 a.m. because why?
Yeah, I have a summer student. I have a student coming in. She's in high school, so she's really on it, way on it than I was back then. Because she's underage, I can't really leave her unattended with certain things.
Yeah.
So like she can't get labs keys to the lab and
hmm
she can't really work on certain experiments by herself. So I come in and help her out.
Is she like in the wet lab part?
No, actually, she's doing a lot of the
Like
analysis.
computational?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
computation. It's a lot of comp. So like when she first got here, I had to teach her how to use like SPSS and how to extract data and stuff like that.
Wait,
So
what's SPSS? What's that?
SPSS, yeah, it's kind of like a really fancy Excel. It's just to help with data analysis. You can like
Oh.
run a bunch of tests on it and like ANOVAs and it's a lot of stats basically.
Oh, it's like Prism, kind of?
Yeah, exactly. It's like Prism, like GraphPad.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Ooh, Prism is my homegirl. I love Prism.
She's cute. She's cute. I feel like she's cute.
Yeah, because I remember like in my previous lab, we had some high schoolers who were in the lab and they weren't allowed to do any like of the wet lab stuff. They couldn't even use a
Yeah.
confocal. They had
Mhm.
to just be at the desk, literally just like data entry and like analyzing data as well. And how long has your student been working in the lab?
Honestly, not very long. It's been a few weeks, and I think she's only here for a couple more weeks. I think it's like a total of like maybe 6 to 8 weeks that she's going to be here. Um,
Oh,
so it's not too much work.
yeah.
It's just
Is she doing this through like a program or is she just like voluntarily wanting to work in a lab?
it's definitely more like her parents know my PI, that kind of situation.
That is literally my old lab.
Yeah.
My old lab. Arushi, if you're listening to this, I'm talking about you, girl. And wow. So is she like wanting to go to is she interested in research?
It's actually really funny. I was talking to her about it, and we're a neuroscience lab. Like we study like
Yeah.
brains and spinal cords and like
Yeah.
movement. And she's really interested in physics. She's specifically
Oh.
like astrophysics. Like she's really like intrigued by that. And so I was like, "Girl, what
hmm
are you doing here?" But
Well, that is so interesting. Who knows? Maybe there is some crossover. Maybe she can learn about how our bodies work in space and
maybe
neuroscience in space, something like that. I don't know.
I'm trying to get her to do a lot of like math stuff, basically anything in the lab. So it's like
Oh,
working with like electrodes,
that's smart. Yeah.
EMG recordings and stuff like that, just to
Mm,
kind of connect it to what she's more interested in instead of like
yeah,
focusing
yeah.
on more bio stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. Look at you being a good
Thank you.
mentor.
Thank you.
Is she your first student that you're mentoring?
She's my kind of, yes, like she's my first official student in the lab. When I
Yeah.
earlier this year I was TAing. It's part of my like it's one of the requirements, right? In my program, I have to TA.
Yeah.
And so I TA'd a bio
TAing.
class. It was so much work. I was exhausted.
Yes, I know.
But I felt like I mentored those students a little. Like a lot of them asked me for
Oh,
rec letters after and like asked
yeah,
me if I was going to TA like another quarter. And I was like, not,
yeah.
can't do this. My research completely halted when I was TAing. I needed to completely focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So officially, she is my first like official lab student mentee.
when you TA, like, do you have to TA for like what's the requirement? Like just 1 year of TAing?
So it's usually two quarters. So we're in a quarter system. So it's usually two
Mm-hmm.
quarters of TAing, but it
Mm,
also depends on the class you're TAing. So for example, the class that I TA'd was a lot of work, and
mm-hmm.
like the directors understand that, and so they consider like 1 quarter of TAing for
Oh,
that counts as two because it's
gotcha,
so much
gotcha.
work.
Gotcha. Oh gosh. How would you compare like doing research now as a grad student to when you were a research tech at our previous institution?
Honestly, when I was a research tech at our previous institution, it was as intense, if not more. I feel like because
Real.
I feel like at our previous institution, at the time, like I had this goal, like I was trying to get into grad school, and also I knew that I only had a year at that institution,
Yeah.
so I had this like I don't know this like pressure to have like use my year
Oh, yeah.
in like the best way possible. So like work extra hard and come in a lot of hours and do as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas I feel like in grad school, like yes, you're trying to defend and like you have like, but you also have like
Mm-hmm.
6 years to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like it's a little less pressure as it was when I was a tech,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
especially with certain people I was working with. It was just a really intense environment. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was maybe just as rigorous, but I think it was a lot more pressure when I was a
Yeah.
tech because I wasn't in grad school yet. So I kind of was like working towards something. I mean, obviously now I'm working towards something. I'm working towards my PhD. But before I was like trying to get into the program and like trying to do all these things. And
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've always feared that I mean, I've been working as a research tech for the past couple of years, and one of the bright sides, in my opinion, of working as a tech is that like almost all of my time in the lab is spent like on lab work and research. And that's something that I genuinely enjoy. And then when I think about grad school, it's something that I've been eyeing and I'm like, grad school sounds really fun, but I'm just not looking forward to the institution that I'm wanting to apply to. Like one of the requirements is that we have to TA for almost an entire year. And I'm like, oh, I'm not looking forward to that. And then like classes, like I don't want to
classes suck. I'll be super honest with you. Classes suck.
I love learning. I like going to class, but I don't like being tested on it. You know what I mean?
It's so stressful. It's so stressful. And then
Yes.
also like grad school classes are just they're on X Games mode. They're next level. Like I can't. They were so difficult. They were,
Yeah.
and I struggled.
Yes. And so that's my worry that if and when I get into grad school, um, that my time would be divvied up and I just wouldn't have enough time on research for like the first couple of years. And then I believe like most institutions, all the classes and all those things are like done by the second year, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would say your first 2 years. Granted, I've only ever done my first 2 years. I'm barely finishing
Mm-hmm.
up my second year,
Yeah.
but everyone says your first 2 years are probably the most difficult because it's like the transition and you're picking the lab, but you're also, taking your classes, you're TAing, you're applying to fellowships, you're trying to figure out your project. So once all
Yeah.
of that is over, like once you finish your qualifying exam,
Yeah.
then you just it's just kind of like you just focus on your research. And then it's almost like you're being a tech again, and you can just
Mm.
work on the things that
Yes.
you actually want, like look forward to working on.
Yeah. Oh, wait, when did you take your qualifying exam?
So I took it a month ago, or I guess hold on.
Mm.
I don't know when this is gonna come out, but I took it in May. So I
Yeah,
took
yeah,
it
you
pretty
took it in
early on.
May.
Yeah, I took it in
How
May.
was it? Were you nervous?
It was so hard. I'll be really honest with you.
Really?
Well, I think my biggest issue was that I picked certain people on my committee that I thought were going to be really supportive and really cool. And
Hmm.
there was one person specifically on my committee that really, really shot me down. And it felt like they were out for blood. And so
Oh,
I felt during my qualifying exam, this
yeah.
one specific PI just was like very, like on my ass about it. And it
Uh-huh.
it became very difficult. Like I remember just being like feeling really like stuck.
Yeah. Oh, God.
You know what I mean? Like, you know how like when you want to cry and your throat hurts?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
I know. Thankfully, everyone else on my committee was really cool and they really stood behind me.
Mhm.
So it ended up being okay and I passed and everything was fine. And we're
Yeah.
moving past it. But it's definitely it was hard. It was.
Mhm. It sucks that they're like that, but maybe I guess or one way to see this is that later on in the future, you're gonna have to deal with people that are gonna be like that are just gonna like shit on your project, your presentation, on everything. And maybe having to deal with this PI will like prepare you and help you like, answer tough questions that they're gonna throw at you. So if anything, they're like the pawn in this little game of chess. So when like the queen attacks, you're like, bitch, I'm prepared. I know, yeah, exactly.
Hi.
And all that matters is you pass your qualifying exam. So snaps you, baby.
Thank you, thank you. And also like it just made me realize like, okay, like I clearly this
Mhm,
person isn't gonna be on my thesis committee, like all of these things, right? So it's just like it opens your eyes to like
mhm.
what you should work on and who you should work with. So
True. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and sometimes you're just gonna work with shitty people and that's okay. That's life. That's life. It's not even just in academia, it's everywhere.
And also one thing that I learned, it's much easier to say than to actually do, but like separating your emotions from like research. Because there are gonna be
Yeah.
times when I have a habit of sometimes taking things personally, whether it's like constructive criticism or just anything.
I know. I'm so sensitive. Same.
Yes, bitch, me too. And so
I'd be crying.
so the committee members on your qualifying exam, they're not the same ones for like your
Your thesis committee,
thesis committee?
they don't have to be, no. So you can choose to have them be the same people, and that's totally up to like the
Yeah.
student.
So you're
Yeah,
playing
it really just
spoons. You're playing spoons. You're trying to get four of a kind. You just switch out the cards. Yeah.
you just kind of see who vibes the best, basically.
Yeah. Is there like one particular PI where like everyone just knows that this is the cool PI and they want that PI to be in the thesis committee?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always like one specific PI per like neuroscience domain. Like, like there's like EFIS and there's like systems and comp, and everyone knows like the cool PIs in each one of those.
Oh,
And so that's who they kind of like fight for committees.
yeah.
And so it's funny because a lot of us were like, it's most of the qualifying exam is usually like in August, right?
Mhm,
And my cohort is doing them really early. And I think it's because we were all just like nervous about who we're going to pick as our committee. So we all were just like
mhm.
trying to pick people and like trying to schedule it really early on.
Can you walk me through what a qualifying exam is like? Obviously, I haven't done
Yeah.
one. I don't know what it's like. Like, just like give me qualifying exam 101.
Okay, so each institution does it differently. So for my program, you're supposed to have a project and you're presenting a project to three different PIs who are on your committee, right?
Yeah.
And these three different PIs typically know, like for example, my project was over spinal cord injury research, right? So the
Yeah.
three PIs that I picked were all, experts in spinal cord injury, right?
Mhm.
And in my project, I was testing a drug, and so one of my committee members also like was working with the same drug that I was working on. So like
Mhm.
everyone on your committee is pretty knowledgeable or like should
Yeah.
know a lot about what your project's about. And so basically during my qualifying exam, I proposed my project and told them how many animals I'm gonna need, what tests I'm gonna run, what I'm expecting to see. And
Yeah.
then the entire time it's supposed to last about 2 hours.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, it's a two yeah,
How long do you present?
so you present for like 45, but during those 45 minutes, they interrupt you. They can interrupt you whenever they want.
Oh, okay.
And it's also a chalk talk. So you don't have a presentation, you don't have like a PowerPoint,
Yeah.
you have just a whiteboard and a marker. And you're just kind of like, this is my plan, right?
Yeah.
And so you present like your aims and what you expect and kind of like not really preliminary data because you don't really have that yet, but kind of like what you'd hope to see and stuff.
And then if something doesn't go right, then you would say, well, alternatively, I would do this experiment if this.
Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And so the whole time they're just asking you really specific questions like why did you choose these animals? Like if you have certain transgenic animals, or like why did you look at these tests? How do you know that this is gonna work and all that stuff? And they're really like on your ass about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point is they want to make sure that you are knowledgeable,
Right.
and they want to make sure that like what you learned in your classes and what you're doing in lab. You know what I mean?
I guess like the way to prepare is like you'd have
Yeah, a
to read a
bunch.
lot of papers, right? And so like, well, how did you know? How did you know? Blah blah blah. Well, like, oh well, there was a recent study on this, and they looked into this, and there are additional studies done by this group, and they looked at this. Like that's how you would defend yourself. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So you'd have to read a bunch of papers and kind of have them like
yeah,
on lock in your head, because then you'd tell them like, oh, on this paper, and you could like name drop it or something.
yeah,
And then they'll be like, oh, what else did they find? Or like, oh, maybe, because, these PIs are knowledgeable, they'll probably know that paper too.
mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, oh, well, they also found this in this paper that's not really valid with what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah,
they can kind of like completely dismiss you.
yeah,
And then you kind of have to recover from that and be like, oh, well, actually,
mm,
da 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 da. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you kind of just like are trying to prove yourself. But
yeah,
it's hard because you're almost kind of setting yourself up for failure, because you're going against like three experts, right? It's like three experts
mm,
in their field who like have their own labs and know everything about whatever, and you're just
yeah.
like a baby neuroscientist, and you're just like, please look at my like look at my project, and I know what I'm talking about.
So what you're telling me is that this is academic Shark Tank.
It's so, yeah, basic. Perfect example.
It's like, hi sharks. For 50% of your time, I would like to get my PhD. And here's why I should get my PhD.
Exactly.
Here's why I should be a PhD candidate. It's like, I like the idea. I love the product, but the reasoning wasn't good. Therefore, I'm out.
Literally. Except it's not them out, it's you. You're out. They're like, no.
And for that reason, you're out. We both interviewed with one specific institution back in 2019. So we applied in 2019 and then we interviewed in person January or February of 2020
Yeah, 29. No, it was 2020.
before
Yeah.
we found out about the pandemic. And
Mhm.
then you, Miss Thang, got into Northwestern and one particular school. For some reason, I thought you were longer because during our neuroscience retreat, you presented a poster and you had so much data.
I was putting in work, bro. I told you I was putting in work.
Yeah, you had like so much data. I worked in my previous lab for like 3 years, and yeah, it seemed like you had more data than I did, and I worked in the lab for 3 years. Holy shit. So you got into the previous institution and then you got into Northwestern. So was it hard for you to decide where you want to go for school, for grad school?
There was a moment when I was debating because, my previous institution, I had already worked there for a year. I had a solid project,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed, like I come to really love. And you're right, I got a lot of data, and I was like, oh, I can really like, publish something, get a paper. And also like with my PI at that previous institution, he was really pushing to be like, if you stay here, you could graduate in 3 years, and like you could do this, and I could put you on top. And knowing his resources and knowing his connections, I was like, I know that to be true. Like I feel like that would have been possible. And also like I was very comfortable with my institution. Like I'm from Texas.
Yay, Texas girl.
I'm from
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. My whole family's in
Wait,
Texas.
where?
My parents are in Waco, Texas.
Oh, Waco. I visited Waco for the first time like last September.
I don't recommend it. Don't go.
Yeah. Notice how I just said I went there. I didn't say anything else. I just went there. That's it.
Oh, just you pass it from if you're driving Austin to Dallas.
It was.
You could just be like, "Hi," and then just not even stop.
It's a city. Waco's a city.
It is. It is. It has a river. That's it.
I always associate Waco with Zombieland because in the very beginning of the movie,
Yes.
They had to like
Like,
find an area that just had like no one. Like they had to find like a safe spot, and they're like, "We gotta go to Waco."
I'm glad you associate Waco with that and not anything else. I'll take it. I'll take it.
All right, so previous institution, your
Right. So it was hard to pick between the previous institution and Northwestern for a moment.
yeah,
For a moment, I was definitely like, I could graduate in 3 years. I could be close to my family. I already know the city. I could renew my lease, like all of these things, right?
yeah,
And I had already made friends.
mm-hmm,
And I mean, honestly, my other institution and Northwestern, they're fairly comparable. You know, like
yeah,
the stipend was good. They're both good programs. And so I was like really torn for a second.
yeah,
And then I realized I was like, you know, I applied to grad school twice. Both of those times, Northwestern was my top choice. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I knew that I wanted to study motor control and,
uh-huh,
spinal cord injuries. And Northwestern is like one of the best schools to do that.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, I get like this full ride, fully funded,
Oh,
and I made to move to Chicago, like one of the best cities in the country. I was like, that sounds so badass. And I've lived in Texas my whole life. So I was like, why am I not jumping at this
yeah,
opportunity? You know what I mean? Like, why am I not wanting to? And it was scary. I didn't know anyone in Chicago. And I knew I was going to be here for like
yeah,
probably 6 years. And this decision will change my whole life. Like, maybe who I end like marrying and where I end up living in the
mm-hmm.
future and like all of these things, right? And I was like, fuck it. Like, there's nothing holding me back from
Oh,
Houston. And honestly, like, my previous institution, I had a lot of good memories, but I also had not a lot of
yeah,
good memories. And I was like, I need a dip. I was
yeah.
like, I need to go. Like, we're good. And I went for the Northwestern.
How, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you love Chicago?
Honestly, 10. Yeah. Chicago is amazing.
Yes, Chicago is so so fun. How far is it from the Northwestern? How far is it away from like downtown Chicago? Like 30 minutes?
Northwestern has two campuses. They have one in
Yeah.
Evanston, which is like
Yeah.
North Chicago, and then they have one in the
Yeah.
downtown campus. So I actually work on the downtown campus.
Oh,
So like I'm in downtown Chicago, baby.
wow.
Like a block
Oh,
away from the lake.
oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, girl, you need to get
Thank
away
you.
from Houston. Get away from Texas. Low key what I want to do, but what you were thinking, making your decision, leaving is exactly what I'm kind of going through right now.
Honestly, I get it. What's happening recently? I get it. I get it.
But yeah, I'm like, I've been in Texas my entire life and I want to get out. But one of the best things about Houston is
Yeah.
that it is so, 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 so
Yeah.
cheap. Like cost of living is cheap. If you don't mind me asking, what is your stipend? Like how much?
So it's 32, 33 a year.
And is that's like livable in Chicago?
It's tech, yes, but
Okay.
also like I'm on a budget. You know what I mean?
Gotcha, gotcha.
But I'm definitely on a like you're gonna need a roommate. I don't have like dependents, and
So I think yeah,
so I think it's like I can't
mm,
imagine having like a family to provide for on this stipend because there's no way. You know what I mean? And even now, like I'm like trying
yeah.
to figure out like, oh, should I have like a side gig? Like, should I tutor high school students? Like, should
Oh yeah, no, I hear.
I don't know, like something like that, because even then, like I'm definitely on a budget. You know what I mean? Like I can't do certain things. I can't eat out all the time. I'm sure it's okay.
Hey,
Help me out. Help me out.
um, content
Just
creation,
I'll be on your podcast every week if
do
you
it. Definitely. There are some tutoring places in Houston that pay a lot. Like they pay like 30 an hour.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, the commitment's kind of big though. It's kind of long. Like you have to work.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
And I think that that'll take some time out of your research. So going back to the previous institution, I'm kind of curious because after we both turned down that institution, and then that's when the pandemic hit, and then we never really got to see each other. You went to Chicago. I kind of want to see like how things panned out, like what happened at the previous institution.
yeah, no, absolutely. So I think it's actually really funny because at our previous institution, I kind of knew who you were. We weren't like really good friends initially, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because we worked in the same building
Yep.
and we used the same like
equipment.
rooms for behavior. Yeah, the same equipment.
Yes, yes.
Like we knew all the same people, and I think we were just like one floor away from each other. Like
I was on the ninth floor. You were on the 10th floor, right?
I was 10th, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we both worked crazy hours. So like I saw you all the time. And it was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because my PI warned me about you. And I like thought you were really cool because I could like sense your vibe. I was like, oh, he's a good energy. Like I want to be his friend.
Yeah.
And my PI was like, oh, you know, he's been working here for a really long time. If you guys both interview, like only one of you is gonna get it. Like he's not gonna that you guys both aren't gonna get accepted.
What? Okay, that I did not know.
No, I told you this.
I did not know that. Wait.
No, I told you this when we were interviewing because I remember because like I was so nervous because I was like, fuck, if it's between me and him, like he's got it. Because like you said, you'd been working there for so much longer than I have, and you had much more data than I had. And I was like, and like you had like the social media presence. I was like, I can't compete. You know what I mean? And then we interviewed.
Yeah.
And we both presented at the interview, right? We both presented posters. And then that's when you kind of like were like, hey, like I think I know you. And I was like, yeah, we kind of work. And I was like nervous about it because I was like, are we friends? Are we not friends? What's happening? And then I told you, I was like, yeah, honestly, I was like worried to be your friend because my PI kind of like put me against you, but like for no reason. I was like, you're really fucking cool. You know what I mean? I was like, when we vibed so hard.
I want to give him benefit of the doubt that maybe that's what he kind of assumed. I don't think he had like bad intentions on like, I want you guys to compete. I think maybe he heard from someone on the admission committee that they are only accepting what, like 14 students, and maybe they can only hold a number of spots for their own people, you know? So who knows? That is shocking though. But if he did have bad intentions, that would shock me because your PI and I are on really good terms. That's the thing. We're on really good terms. I mean, I haven't talked to him since, but my old PI went to grad school with your PI. And when I interviewed with my PI for the research tech position, she was like, "Oh my gosh, like you remind me of one of my good friends." And then I was like, "Okay." And then I got to meet your PI, and I'm like, "We're just both gay." Like,
yeah, gay, just gay and like eccentric.
Exactly, we're just both gay and Asian. I'm like, I'm really seeing the similarities. Okay. And
you low-key have the same haircut too.
Okay, actually, no, yeah, high key, actually. You're right. You are so right. I just remember definitely like bonding with you during that interview weekend because you were like the only person that I like truly knew. And it was just wild that our previous research experiences were so similar, like the way that our PIs handle things. And when I say that like that our PIs were like manipulative, like that's like sugarcoating it because they were.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
And I'm like,
they sucked. Yeah.
Friends because they're so similar in the way that they handle their labs.
Yeah.
Are you on good terms with your previous PI?
It's honestly, I have no idea because when I left, things were really hectic. You know, it was right when COVID hit and everything was shutting down, and we had to like, you know, close everything. Like I had to close my project, and also I had just gotten accepted, so I was leaving soon. So when everything was shutting down, we counted that as like my exit.
Right.
You know, was like downloading all these files, and it was just really hectic. And so I'm not on speaking terms with my PI, with my previous PI, but I don't necessarily know if that's
Wait, did he
like a good or a bad thing? Because I felt like when I left,
did he write your letter of rec for grad school?
Yes, he did. But that was I had gotten accepted already.
You're right. Oh, okay. So it was after the acceptance where like things were just kind of like either plateauing or going south.
I feel like I was mistreated and manipulated all the time during my program, like the year that I was there.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I kind of dealt the whole time because in my head I was like, I really just need to get into grad school, and if I quit this lab, like I'm not gonna be able to, you know, submit an application because like another PI is not gonna know me as well. I'm not gonna be able to have another project. Like I knew I was like, I just need to deal.
Yeah.
And kind of go with it until I get accepted. And then once I got accepted, I was like, okay, like I can't handle this anymore. And then that's when I, kind of like spoke about what was happening in the lab.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like for a long time I just kind of like was desensitized by it.
Right.
Like I was mistreated, and I knew I was getting mistreated, and I knew like it wasn't okay. But in
Yes.
my head, I was like, I can't deal with this right now. Like I can't let it get to me because I have to get into grad school. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was my goal. And
Yes.
I think it wasn't until
Mm-hmm.
I did decide to, report my PI. And afterwards, when I was in the report and I was like explaining to my director, it was to HR, and also like my directors were there, the directors of my program, because I was in a prep program.
This is the HR.
And so like they were all like kind of in a room.
I see. I see.
And so like I was like, yes, like this is how he was treating me, da, 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 right? And I kind of had like a list, right? Because I was like, I didn't want to forget anything.
Yeah.
And it was just like so interesting because I feel like for a long time I was just kind of so used to that I was like, oh yeah, this is what he did. And then at one point my directors were like, are you serious? Like that's not okay. Like, are you serious? Like
Uh-huh.
they like the looks on their faces that like it was such a bad thing
Yeah.
that I was like, shit, like you're right. Like, I don't know why I didn't tell you before. Like, I don't know why
Yes, that was
I didn't say something because that's really shitty. And I didn't,
uh-huh.
it didn't even like hit until I saw their faces. And I was like, oh shit. Like,
Do you remember what it was, the incident?
I do remember. Yeah. So when I got into both schools, right, Northwestern and a
Yeah.
previous institution, my PI got very nice, very like, oh, you'd be so great here, graduate in 3 years, all of these things. You know what I mean?
My PI too. Yes.
So
Yes.
almost like trying, because he knew he was I feel like he knew he was mistreating me, and then he realized
Yes.
that the only way to get me to stay, because I was an asset, right? Like I did a lot of work. I was
Mm-hmm.
hauling ass. So
Right. Yes, you were.
he was like, I'm gonna be like, I in my head, I don't actually know if this is what his intentions were, but it seemed like he was being really nice to me, like buy me lunch and like all these things. And finally got to the point where I told him, I was like, you know what, I decided to go to Northwestern. Like I declined the previous institution's offer, and I'm gonna go to
Yeah.
Northwestern. And he got so angry. I just remember him just like being really petty. And at first I was like, oh, maybe he'll just be passive aggressive and I can just like
Yeah.
ignore it and it's not a big deal. And he straight up told me, he was like, oh, you only got into that institution because of my recommendation. Like, let's see what happens. Like, if I call them and take my recommendation out, like, if you still have a spot there.
What the fuck? No. How did you feel in that particular moment?
I
That is such
I was like at a loss for words because like
yeah.
it was very on brand with him. Like I had seen him be cruel to people before,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess he had been cruel to me before. But I guess it was always very like, I don't know, like very almost low key.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know before he's told me like, oh, you know, if you don't do this experiment, we won't put you on the paper, or like something like that. So like really like
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
But
Uh-huh. Oh shit.
I think this was like immediate, like an immediate fuck you, and like that's what I like was like, oh shit, because I think before anything he had said to me, it just kind of blew off because I was like, oh, it's like whatever, like it's something light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was like a direct hit. You know what I mean? Like this is just like, you're worthless and you didn't do this on your own. I got you here. I'm the reason you're succeeding in life, or like
What
something like that.
the
You know what I
heck?
mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. And I was just like, I don't know. It felt really discouraging. And I knew immediately that his words didn't mean anything
Mm-hmm.
because that's just how he is. And at this point, like I knew how he was dealing and the things he said. But at the same time, I was like, that's so shitty. And so when
Yes.
my directors and I told like the HR person, they were like, he said that. And I was like,
Wait, who did you
yeah,
talk to in HR? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember her name.
Was it was it oh my god. I honestly did not know that you had to go through you went through all of this. But it's once again it's crazy cuz we went through the same thing exiting the institution, and then you and I are very similar where I'm not even sure if my PI and I are on good terms, but I know for sure that I'm not trusting that letter of rec.
Yeah.
Wait, did HR do anything to your PI?
I don't think so because I thought that they would like reach out to me once, like again, once the report was filed or
Yeah.
whatever, and I was never talked to again. And then it also happened like all of this was happening, May 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like right, everything had just shut down. Things were like kind of opening up so people could go into like the animal facilities and they could go into experiments. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was like required to work from home because I wasn't considered essential yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like I think there was so much going on that nothing happened. Also, I just feel like
Yeah.
he was also like a very influential and like powerful person in our old institution to the point where like
Yes.
I
Yep.
don't think it would have done anything. You know what I mean?
He's the core director or the director for the core, right?
Yeah.
So pretty high up there. And I was pretty close to some of the members in your lab. I think she was an undergrad. She helped me move some of the equipment sometimes
Mhm.
from the main building to our building.
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Maybe.
She's Asian. I want to say Victoria. I don't think that's her name though. Yes, I remember
Yeah.
because I was always humming her name. Well, sometimes I go out by myself. Well, I might bleep that part out because I don't want to. You're
she's
listening? Hey, girl.
she's in med school now.
Really?
Yeah, so she was an undergrad and then she was a tech the same year I was a tech because she had
Yeah.
graduated and then she was just kind of applying to med school and then she got into med school. We were so excited because like I feel like she and I kind of created a bond when we were
Yeah.
teching at the same time because we both were kind of dealing with the same shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Y'all were
and we were
trauma
both just
bonding.
like, yeah, exactly. Trauma
Yes. No,
bonding.
I'm telling you, we went through similar experiences. My colleagues and I, we all trauma bonded, and that's what y'all are doing too. Trauma bond.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, and we were both kind of in the same mindset where we were like, I just wanted to get into grad school. She just wanted to get into med school. So we were just like, let's just wait it out
Yeah.
and get our acceptances and then dip. And that's what we did. We got accepted around the same time. And then we both were like, all right, bye. We
Yeah.
left.
I know that like the other grad students did not want to join y'all's lab because there's only like y'all only had one lab or one grad student. Is it
One
no
grad student.
left?
Really?
Left the
He did
lab.
leave. Yeah.
Yeah, like on bad terms with.
Wait, are you talking about? I don't know if we're talking about the same.
He's like he had like a
We had
beard or
some.
something. He's not a PhD student. He's like I don't know, like a postdoc or something in your lab. He like had a beard, bigger guy.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He left like on bad terms with your PI,
Mhm.
and I think he moved to like the main building.
Okay.
And y'all had one PhD student, and he tolerated your PI. He was able to tolerate. I don't know how.
I think
You know who I'm talking about?
I do know who you're talking about. I had feelings about him. He was I think he had kind of like the same mindset as both of our PIs where he just was kind of like
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, he was kind of mean to me too, honestly. And I think part of it was like he was technically my like superior, right? Like he was a grad student, I was a prep scholar. So
Uh huh.
like I was learning from him and he like taught me a lot and I'm grateful for that, but he definitely he didn't we didn't trauma bond because I feel like he
Mm, really liked your PI and like
yeah,
respected him and
yeah,
all that. Yeah.
exactly.
I kind of got that feeling too. I never really spoke to him, but I got that. How do I know that? I don't know. I just kind of got that feeling.
He does have like a vibe. I think that's what it is. I think it's actually very apparent.
Yeah. Gonna vibe.
Maybe
Yeah.
come up with
Maybe you know, I haven't talked to in a while. I have not talked to Sarabi.
I love her. I haven't talked to her either.
I love Sarabi so much. You know, I met her way before I met you because she's co-director of the.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I was just starting out with my behavioral assays, I had to meet with her to learn how to use, the equipment.
Yeah, the training. Yeah.
So this is like 2018. And she and I just like bonded over how much we love rats.
Mhm.
And I thought she was really cool. And then I found out that like she cooks a lot on the side. Like not just cooks for fun, but like I mean she does cook for fun, but she does
No,
like
she has like a YouTube.
yeah, she has like
Yeah.
tutorial videos and it's she's growing. And I'm so happy for her.
I know she's like a dancer too.
Yes, she's so fucking talented. And she went to grad school with our PIs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but despite going to grad school with them and I guess being friends with them, like she would tell me all these interesting stories. And she really looked out for you and you know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She
Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, I loved her. I love her. She's great.
she is this amazing. I actually want to invite her to the podcast to see what she's up to now. Do you know if she's still working at our previous institution?
I think she is, but honestly, I have no idea. I have her on Facebook, but like I don't think she ever posts about our previous institution. It's like I'm not sure.
I'm kind of like curious to see how your that lab is even funded because I don't think that lab even published a paper in the past like couple of years.
No, they didn't.
Like 10 years, right?
Yeah, they haven't published a paper in a very long time. I was
Who is funding? Where's the money coming from?
where you think, Miss Ma'am on the 13th floor, where you think.
Oh, you're right. You're right. See, 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 wig.
We know who. We know who
Okay.
it is.
Does it ever bring back bad memories though?
Yes and no. Like yes, because I know that like
Mm,
I wasn't in the best headspace. Like I had like this goal in mind. And I think that's the only thing that kind of kept me going was the fact that I just really wanted to get into grad school. And so like everything else just didn't
yeah.
matter. You know, I was like, I'm gonna do this experiments. I'm gonna stay in late. I'm gonna deal with a toxic PI. And I'm actually like
Hmm.
really proud of myself because like I got it and like I got into my top choice and like I did
Yeah.
do a lot of work and I did hustle and I did learn a
Yeah.
lot. Like even though I was in such a bad lab environment, that didn't really stop me from, you know, not doing my project and not finishing what I needed to finish. So like yes, it was really hard and yes, it brings
Yeah.
back bad memories and I don't ever want to go through that again. But it's also like I feel like I grew a lot in that lab. And
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
It definitely thickens your skin a bit too. Like it
Yeah.
helps you grow up and it helps you lay down boundaries. With this current lab, how are you doing?
Great. I love my current lab. Yeah.
Ah, ah,
I love it.
I'm
Yeah.
happy for
I
you.
know it's a good time.
Would you say that your previous research experience is related to your current research?
Somewhat. So from not my research from my previous institution, because that was more of like a genetics lab.
Yeah.
But my research when I was in undergrad is really connected to what I'm doing now because I worked in spinal cord injuries when I was in undergrad, and I worked with like motor recovery,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what I'm doing now. I kind of went back on it because I think when I was in undergrad, I really liked my lab and I really liked what I was doing,
Yeah.
but I worked there for like almost like 3 years.
Hmm.
And I think for a long time, I was like, what if I only like this research because it's the only research I've done? And it's like what I've done the most. So when I was at our other institution, I decided to not do motor based. And I was like, let's do genetics. Let's do something else to kind of see like if I like other things. And even though I really liked my project in my old lab and I really liked the genetics portion of it,
Yeah.
I was like, I really love spinal cord injuries.
Aw,
And so I decided to work with, yeah.
I'm happy for you. Is grad school everything that you like expected it to be?
I knew it was going to be hard. I did not think it was going to be this hard.
What makes it hard,
I think,
if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're expected to do so much. Like I said, like you have these classes and then you have research and you have fellowship applications and you have TA-ship. Like you're kind of like pulled towards everything. And also, I think,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't take classes for a year. And so I think that really like it was hard to kind of adjust back into the classroom. Also, I did start grad school in 2020, mid-pandemic. My first year of classes were completely remote.
Yeah.
So like not only am I learning these really hard topics, but
Uh-huh.
I wasn't really getting the support I needed
Yeah.
because like I didn't have any
Yeah,
friends
yeah.
in Chicago. And also Chicago winters from a going from a Texas girl
Yeah.
to a
Oh,
Chicago winter, it wrecked me. It
yeah.
kicked my ass. Seasonal depression hit me so hard.
I feel you. Like, girl, I visited Chicago one time in April
Yeah.
when it was cold,
Yeah, no,
and to me that was too cold already. So I can't even imagine what it's like during the winter time.
it's cold like 9 months out of the year. It's awful.
Oh, fuck no, baby.
I know.
Like,
I said I love Chicago like it's a 10, but only in the summer.
I feel, like I love like the northern states. I love like the city vibes and all, but I hate the weather. Like, I
Yeah.
love New York. I love the Big Apple. I love New York, but it's too cold sometimes, and I cannot wear winter clothes for too long. I'd rather just wear like shorts and a tank top. Like right
Yeah.
now in Texas, it is like high 90s, low 100s, and I low key like it. Like
No, literally, it was like 90 something degrees the other day here in Chicago, and everyone was like, I'm dying. And I was like, I'm thriving. This is the best thing. I was outside all day. I was like, I don't care. Like I can't handle it.
literally, natural selection was taking its
Absolutely.
course.
But yeah, I would definitely say that's why grad school was so hard. It was like the adjustment, it was the new city. I didn't know anyone. And
Yeah.
also like pandemic and
What is one thing that you really enjoy so far in grad school?
nothing. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Like something that you're like, I was on something you're like, whoa, I didn't know like I would like this, or I was not expecting to.
Mm,
Yeah, I was not expecting to like this.
it's so
Hmm.
interesting because now I think about it, a lot of the things I'm doing now are things I've already done. And so they're things I knew I would like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. Oh my gosh. I think yeah, after like leaving a bad like lab environment, you begin to appreciate all the small things from like a new lab environment. And so the first thing I did with my new lab is like laying down the boundaries with my PI. I was like, I'm gonna do this, this, and
Mhm.
this. Don't expect me to do this because and I think he could tell that like something had happened in my previous lab because I was just very cautious with everything.
Mhm.
Were you like that with, I guess, any of the PIs at your current institution?
I was like the opposite. I think I was definitely cautious, but I have this really hard time of making boundaries and asking for help.
Mm,
So I realized like I told my PI what happened in my previous institution just to kind of get a heads up. Like I
yeah.
was like, this is what happened, whatever. And she was so cool about it, right? And so now, like for example, when I took on my current project, I was like, yeah, I can come in on weekends, like I can do this if it's needed. Da, da, da. And she was like, let's just start Monday through Friday and see how that goes. If we need to add in time, we can.
Oh my, yes. Love that.
And then I told her like, oh yeah, we can extend the project like 16 weeks if we need to. And she was like, let's just start with 8. Like, let's do 8 weeks. Let's see how it goes. If we need to extend it, we can like, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like she
Yeah.
put the boundaries for me. And I needed that because I feel like I would have exactly gone down the hole that I was in before.
Yes.
Like I didn't learn. You know what I mean? Because I want to be such a
Yeah.
people pleaser and I want to like prove that I deserve to be in this space.
Yeah.
And I think she was just like, you've made it. Like you can chill. You know
Oh,
what I
I'm so
mean? Like
happy for you.
you don't
Yeah.
and it's so refreshing. It's and even now, like I still have to like cautiously I have to consciously think like I can't handle all of this work.
Mhm.
I and it's okay. Like I can take a break and that's fine. And yeah.
One thing that is just so relieving is when you're able to convey your thoughts, your feelings, and emotions to your PI. And it feels so good when they're so understanding and they're like, oh, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. Or we can work it out. And literally, like, I orgasmed when my PI was like, "Yeah, like, I wanna make sure that I'm helping you reach your goals. Like, what can I do to help out?" I'm like, "Oh my fucking god." Like, yes.
Like you don't have an ulterior motive? What?
Exactly. Like, you don't want me to follow your
Yeah.
agenda? What? Oh my gosh. You care about me? What? You care about my research goals? Wow.
It's literally so refreshing. It's so nice.
I remember one time we had like a little like a subgroup meeting and one person was just like feeling like a bit like sick, I think like allergies or just like flu or something. And my PI was like, is something wrong? Do you need to go on vacation? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, like, if you need to go on vacation, like you can take a week off. I'm like, what? This would never happen in my old lab.
Literally never. It,
Did you ever have any vacations in your old lab?
no, I worked holidays. I worked weekends. I
Same here. Same here.
no
I worked
no vacations.
almost every single holiday. Yep. I think I only had my 3 years of working in my old lab. I only went on vacation like 2 or 3 times. That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas like everyone in this lab, they go on vacation like once every 2-3 months. And I'm like, this is such like a healthy lab environment and everyone is just genuinely happy. And when everyone's happy and everyone is like so self-motivated, it just makes you feel good. And then
Yeah.
you're like, I'm in the right environment. Like this is what I kind of wish like my last lab was like this, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
All right. Well, thank you, Miranda, for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank
Is
you.
there any advice that you'd like to give to the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like don't take shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't take shit.
Fight for yourself. Don't take shit. I mean, like I know people will be like, "Oh, it builds character," or like, "Oh, it'll help you learn." And like, yeah, for sure, it'll help you learn.
It helps build my story arc.
Yeah, my villain era.
I like that. Don't eat shit. Don't eat shit. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, no, for sure. So my Instagram, actually, I think all of my social media, like my Instagram, my TikTok, my Snapchat, all these things are like Mimi_Torres 07. Um, so yeah, I guess they're not very, I'll be super honest, they're not very professional, but we can be homies, you know. I'm a good time, y'all.
Gotcha. And I'll include that in the description too. Slay the boots, house on mama. Yes, God. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Miranda, so much. I love chatting with you and just catching up. And this has just been so refreshing. This is taking me back to
I
2019,
know
2020. Oh my
the
gosh.
days.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Alrighty. Bye, y'all.